Okay, next question. Outline one disadvantage of using a single measure of development, such as income. So that's something like GDP or GNI or GDI and so on. So I've put down here 3 disadvantages, but of course you only need to have one. But if you notice, it's 2 marks, so it's got to be well explained. So we need to have that, firstly, there could be a difference between different regions in a country. So you could have a real rich part of a country and a much poorer part of a country. So the GDP wouldn't give us a very good reflection of how wealthy that country actually was. But a good one that you could put in there is the difference between urban and rural areas, or in Nigeria you could talk about the difference between the north and the south. Okay, you could show that the distribution of wealth amongst the population is not shown. So you could have a very small minority of people with a lot of money and a large majority with very little money. So that the GDP doesn't really give you a very good reflection. And you could also then have said it doesn't show the social development of the country, and lots of people did say this, so it doesn't tell us anything about healthcare provision. The country could look very rich on paper, but actually not be spending any of that money on healthcare provision for the people who live there. So good, that one was answered very well. Okay, study figure 6, which is this one. Table shows indicators of development for 3 different countries. So we've got 3 quite different countries here. So we've got our HIC, our LIC and our NEE. So it's really good always to think about the countries that you're looking at before you answer the question. And we've got GNI, which as you can see is really high in Italy, the lowest in Sierra Leone, but towards the lower end in China. Life expectancy, again, Italy highest, China still high, Sierra Leone really quite low. Adult literacy rate, well, almost 100% in Italy, very high in China, but really quite low in Sierra Leone. So it's pretty obvious that Sierra Leone is the poorest of those nations. But what does the actual question say? Explain how the indicators of development shown in figure 6 suggest differences in the lives of people in those countries. So you've actually got to relate this question to people's lives. So when you're talking about literacy rate, that's talking about how likely they were to have gone to school, how long they will have spent in school, what the education standards would have been like, how well trained the teachers were, whether they had textbooks or not, how many people were in the class. Life expectancy would tell us about their diet. It would tell us about their healthcare. It would tell us about the prevalence of disease. It would also tell us about HIV, which is probably why Sierra Leone's is quite low there. And then the money, the GNI, would tell us perhaps something about people's incomes, how high individual people's incomes are, but it would also tell us something possibly about government spending and what government services are going to be like. So I've jotted down a few ideas here. To get 4 marks, okay, you had to say 2 differences, and you had to develop both of them. So you had to say something and then add on to it in some way. If you just did 2 basic differences, you would have got 2. If you'd done 2 basic differences, one of which was developed, you will have got 3. Okay, so here's some of my notes. There are other ideas and other things you could have written. In China and Italy, the healthcare is better than in Sierra Leone. For example, there are fewer people per doctor. So I've made my point and then I've developed it. And I've given a difference because I've used the word better. China and Italy, the diet is better than Sierra Leone. And we can see that people live longer. Now, if I keep on repeating better, that's not great. So I could have said something here, such as in China and Italy, the diet is more balanced or contains more protein or something like that. So that would have been a better answer there. In China and Italy, people are more likely to go to school and be in school for longer than in Sierra Leone. So I could add on all of those other ideas, that the classes would be smaller, teachers better trained, more textbooks, and so on. So Italy is more likely to have higher paid employment than China. And with your knowledge now of primary, secondary and tertiary sectors, you could have developed that to say that it's going to be in the tertiary sector, whereas China is quite likely to be in the secondary sector, because we can see that the GNI is much lower. Okay, and maybe in Sierra Leone we could say people are more likely to work in agriculture. We've got a very low GNI. You could also say that in Sierra Leone people are likely to be very poor, and the government is likely to have very little money to spend on services, unlike in China and Italy. So lots of ideas there, but as I say, there are many more, but the key thing is to make your point and then develop it. Okay, the demographic transition model. Got a really nice clear diagram here in figure 7. Birth rate blue, drops after the death rate shown in green, total population red, and then they've got the projections for stage 5. Okay, so we've got Malawi, and it tells us a little bit about it. Malawi is a lower income country in southern Africa. Which stage is it most likely to be in? Well, it's poor, so it's going to be more towards the start of the DTM. It's likely to have quite high death rates, and it could have quite high birth rates, but they could be starting to come down like they are in stage 3. Now we're 100% certain it's not going to be stage 1, because stage 1 is just our very small, for example, Amazonian tribes that have never had contact with the outside world. So really, it's not going to be stage 1. It's not likely to be stage 5 because it's an LIC, not an HIC, and the same for stage 4. So it's got to therefore be stage 2 or 3, so this is your answer. Okay. Describe how the demographic transition model is linked to economic development. Well, we've just talked that through for this answer. So more developed countries are going to be in the later stages. Okay, with the HICs in 4 and 5 and the LICs in 2 and 3. Okay, the less developed countries are going to have the higher death rates and the reducing or birth rates. Okay, but it would be good here to put in that the most developed countries are the ones in stage 5 where the death rate goes over the birth rate as we have an ageing population. So there's lots of things you could have said there, but you had to give 2 points so that you could get your 2 marks. So this would have been 1 point. More developed countries are in later stages, and then that would have been your 2nd point. Or you could have made 2 completely separate points. Okay. So we're getting on now to the questions that were all about your Nigeria work that you did over the break. Okay, so it says very clearly here, you should refer to specific information from this case study in your answers. That is absolutely key. That is the key to getting the marks in this section. So, first one, explain how a growth in manufacturing industry promotes economic development in the country you've studied. So we know the manufacturing industry in Nigeria is the manufacturing of oil, so taking the oil out of the ground, turning it into something useful. And we have studied this. It was in your project work, and so I've jotted down 4 things here, but of course you only had to get 3 marks. So this could be for 3 separate points, or it could be 1 and 2 for developing an idea, or 2 basic points and 1 that you develop. So you've got this idea of either writing a number of basic points or some more developed points. So our first point that a lot of people did get is to say that more people were employed, there was more paid work. Okay, but we need to say more about Nigeria. So we could say here something about that there is therefore a demand for more products domestically, and that means within Nigeria. Domestically means at home. Now, when you get one manufacturing industry, you often get what we call component industries, and they make parts. So a good example was the VW cars in Lagos. There are many companies that make parts for those VW cars and go into that. So that boosts the economic development of the country even more. Taxes go up. More taxes collected from the manufacturing industries, and so then the government can spend that on infrastructure that attracts more industries, such as high-tech, internet or roads. Okay, the byproducts from the industry can be sold, and the big example from Nigeria is the soaps and plastic that is made from the oil. So oil doesn't just go into being fuel, it can also be made into soaps and plastics, and where that's done in Nigeria they make more money from it, so they develop economically. So there's a whole host of ideas there, but you only had to give 3 to get your marks. Okay, describe some of the environmental impacts of economic development on the environment in the country you've studied. So we're talking about Nigeria, big one that obviously we all associate with the oil is the oil spills. So we know that there were some oil spills in the Niger Delta. So I would focus on that to start with. So this is a 4 mark. So again, you either have to do, you have to give 2 basic points, and they need to be developed to get your full marks. So we could put in a bit of development would be this bit about it being in Bodo in 2008-9. And what did that oil spill specifically do? Well, it destroyed the Delta ecosystem. Plants died, fish died. It was completely unusable. There were oil slicks on it. The oil slicks sometimes catch fire, which gives out CO2, which is a cause of global warming. It also causes acid rain, which when it falls kills aquatic or fish life and plants such as trees. Okay, so that was your focus from oil spills. You could have got all your marks from that, or you could have added another point. So there was a big one about deforestation for commercial farming. Remember, you're talking about economic development, so you need to focus on commercial farming, not subsistence farming here. And the impact of that is that now there are no more cheetahs or giraffes, and that 500 plant species have been lost. So that's my point, that's my development. And it's also specific to Nigeria. Urban growth, and you might, I suppose, make that specific by talking about Lagos. Waste disposal becomes a big problem, so we have waste in the streets because of the waste disposal system isn't enough to cope with the number of people arriving and living there. Traffic congestion on the roads creates fumes, causes respiratory problems for people, CO2 emissions, greenhouse effect. And then another one that you could have picked up on were the industrial plants and the illegal industries. In Kano, Kaduna and Lagos, you only need to say one of those. Often the pollutants or the chemicals that are used in the industries are simply poured into drains and into water channels, which kill fish and are toxic to people. The chemicals used in tanning are often responsible for that. Okay, on to the final question. So this was a lovely question that was really well prepared for in the project work that you did over the break. So we've got here the TNCs, the transnational corporations, only bring advantages. So it's a really strong statement that. Do I agree with that statement? Well, to be honest, it doesn't matter what you say, as long as you back it up with what's below. But, and here's a but, to get into the level 2, you've got to start giving a more balanced answer, and to get the level 3 marks you've got to give a fully balanced answer. So level 1 we call basic, level 2 we call clear, and level 3 we call detailed. Okay, so we've got to justify our decision, and like I say, to get level 3 we've got to be fully balanced. So you know how to do this. You use your 2 hands on one hand and on the other hand. So you've got your points under each finger, that hopefully you use this technique to remember them, and so that will help you to recall. So here we go. We know we've got to talk about Nigeria specifically, so I'm going to start by being specific about one of the TNCs that are there, and you do know that you may also have done Unilever, which you could also talk about here. So I would start with on one hand, and I would give a number of points, which you can see here. Let's take it out of the shadow. Okay, you can see that I have given some very specifics here, some specific facts and figures, okay, and I've focused on Nigeria specifically, okay, and then I've gone to my on the other hand, okay. So now I decided that I would give the positives first, so I would probably say yes, I did agree with that statement. So I've given my points that agree with it, and now I'm going to do on the other hand, because I need to give this balanced answer. So I agree, but on the other hand, other people might say, some other people might think. So I think it's advantages only, but there are some people who suggest these disadvantages. So these are mostly things that we've just talked about actually with the environmental degradation, but you've also got the sort of disruption of supply by militant groups, and theft and sabotage, and deaths of local people near the pipelines where they leak and so on. So I have here been specific about Nigeria. I've given on one hand and on the other hand, I've given a balanced answer. I've given an answer that's very, very specific to the place that I'm talking about. So I've named places, I've given years, I've given facts and figures that are actually about that. And those are the 3 things that you need to do. So you need to give specific case study information or knowledge. And that has to be about Nigeria, and I would most expect it to be about Shell. You have to give a balanced answer. So you have to use, it's best to use on one hand, on the other hand. Okay? And we're also looking for facts, figures, and place names. Okay. Also for the level 3, you're going to want to link your reasons together. So you're going to want to develop each point and link it together. So again, you can use your nice connectives there: moreover, furthermore, however, but, and so on. Okay, and then just finally for this paper, just to talk about the SPAG. SPAG goes down if you don't use paragraphs. It goes down for misspellings. It definitely goes down if you use capital letters incorrectly. It goes down if you don't write in proper sentences or full sentences that make sense. But it goes up if you use ambitious vocabulary and geographical words. Okay, and if you use paragraphs, and if you put all your capital letters in the right place, and if you spell your words, especially your keywords, properly, then your SPAG goes up. Okay, so thank you very much. That's the end.